Hello and welcome to Workflow Basics. So we in this chapter in this module we are going to learn about workflow. I'm going to limit my theories very little. I would prefer to do more practical. You can learn theory from from anywhere. You can Google for workflow manuals. You would see a lot of theories. Um, so we would we would start with the basics. Um, our goal is to get some basic idea about workflow. I will take you through the lab which I did about or 10 years ago. I think the same, that's a pretty good lab. It's about the vacation approval. We would go through that lab and we'll get our hands dirty. So make sure your workflow builder is installed. So I have a link to get the workflow builder so you can install it in your machine. As always, there will be a zip file below this chapter for you to download. So why workflow? So what is the purpose of workflow? The main goal of workflow is to automate and streamline the business process. It helps you to focus on the business process. Workflow is embedded in along with the business suite, which would help you to enforce the business rules. So in short, workflow is an automated tool to manage your business process, business rules. So if you look at the architecture of the workflow, it has different components. I'm not going to go in detail, but we'll start with the development client. This is your desktop version where you're going to create your workflow definition files. These workflow definition files are then loaded into the Oracle database. It can be either through direct save or through the FND loads. So the second part of this architecture is the database, which has the workflow engine. The workflow engine keep more. It's basically a separate. If you think about a server, it basically runs. It keep tracks of the notification, can keep tracks of a lot of things, including the business events. Uh, it manages the workflow. Then it has another sets of users, directory services for users and roles. The next component is the application server, where you have the service component and the Oracle HTTP server. And finally, you have the end user client, which is the email or the workflow manager, workflow web pages. I'm not going to get into details of these individual components. I just want you to know that the workflow has four different components at this point. So we'll just, so as I said, I'm not going to go much into theory. We will just take um, what is important for a workflow planning a workflow process. First is to identify the business need. So why do we need workflow? So workflow would take, for example, if there is a invoice, it should go, if it's about this amount, it should go to this particular person. So that's the business need. So how do you accomplish that need? Whether it's a function, do you need to send an email? Um, and how does the process initiate it? So we can do, there are multiple ways of doing it. You can use, most of the e-business workflows are triggered from the form itself, or some of them are through business events. So there are different ways to initiate initiate a workflow. So once the workflow is initiated, it takes its path that we have defined. Um, so there are different, there are different things that we need to look at. There's a process, there's a function, the notification, events. So we will go through all these as we go along. So our goal is to build a vacation proposal process. Here, the business rule is that the requester, if I am requesting for vacation, I'm going to send it to the approver. The approver then either looks at the email and says whether to approve or reject this vacation approval. So if it's approved, I'll get an email saying that the vacation is approved. If it's rejected, I'll get an email saying that the vacation is rejected, and we will allow a comment session to go through. So I put together a simple paper diagram, but you can have in a different way. But here is my vacation request. I send it to the approver. He can either approve or reject it. So if it's approved, I would get an approval notice. If it's rejected, I'll get a rejection notice. So this is the first introduction. So so in the next chapter, we will start building on on this particular function. So we'll start building onto this workflow. We'll add complexity to the workflow as we go along. So get ready to get your hands dirty. So with this, I'm ending this chapter. We will look forward to seeing you in the next chapters.